Thank you so much for coming on. I'm super pleased to have you as a guest on our podcast. We are collaborating with SEC and Hydrogen Europe, and the podcast is really to speak about you as an individual, to focus a little bit on your career, what sort of challenges you might have faced, and how did you overcome these challenges as well. So maybe just to kick off, if you can tell me a little bit about your career and to date, and how did you end up sitting with me here now and discussing?
Sure. Thank you very much for the invitation. It's a pleasure talking to you. From my early childhood years, I've always been interested in science and engineering, wanting to know how things work, why they work the way they do. And so I focused on science through my education. I graduated with a degree in chemistry and then went to work in the private sector, where I learned chemical engineering. My first job was working for an R&D company in Bend, Oregon, which is where I live now. Uh, that work, and actually my very first project, took me into the field of hydrogen production and hydrogen purification. And the work was focused on very early stage concepts, proving technical feasibility, and then writing a report. And then you do that all over again. It's government-funded R&D, and I found that less than satisfying. I wanted to see concepts taken to products or processes that people would use. So after 9 years working in R&D, and at the encouragement of Keith Prater, who at the time, this was the early 90s, at that time, Keith Prater was one of the founders and the chief technology officer at Ballard Power Systems. And my work had introduced me to Ballard. Keith was like a mentor to me, and he encouraged me to follow my passion. And that led me to quitting my job. I had a 2-year-old little girl at the time. Don't know why
Years
my
ago
wife
was
told
that?
me. I
How
had a
old is she now?
two-year-old I had a 2-year-old child at the time. I quit my job to start a new company. And that was the beginning of the path that I'm on now. So at that point, I began to follow my passion to use science and engineering to make products that people would use. And that's exactly what we do at Element One.
And why did you decide to work in the industry? What was the big drive? I mean, to make this massive change, especially with a 2-year-old, that's
Yeah,
already more than a full-time job. So what was the
right,
big drive?
right. It's crazy, isn't it? Um, I was I've been interested in energy from my undergraduate studies and onward. My work with Ballard Power Systems introduced me to fuel cell technology, and I thought there was a lot of potential globally for that. But really, the tipping point was when I read a book that I purchased in London, and the book was all about energy and how energy is used globally. And the revelation for me was realizing that if you take the world's population, 1/3 of that population has ready access to electricity. That's you and me. It's the developed countries in North America, Asia, Europe. 1/3 of the world's population has intermittent access to electricity. That's developing countries, largely in Asia and Africa, South America. And then, believe it or not, 1/3 of the world's population does not have access to electricity. No lights, no radios, no computers, no refrigeration for food or vaccines. So, what does that mean? Any technology that can make electricity available where it's needed, it's a huge market for it. So, that was really what drove me to get into this particular sector.
I mean, that wasn't the answer I even expected, but it's super nice to hear. I mean, to have this in the back of your head always, as years go by. I mean, as you said, sometimes work is just rinse and repeat and over, and you have to sort of
Right.
remember and keep going back to why you started. So yeah, super happy to hear that. Very insightful. Maybe on a little bit negative note, what would you say was like the key challenges that you have faced throughout your career, and how did you get to
Mm.
overcome them?
Well, Element One is my second company. My first company I co-founded in 1995. Again, after 9 years working in R&D, and right away, what I learned was that I knew nothing about business. I didn't know accounting or finance, how to report how well a company is doing. So it made it very difficult to interact with the venture investment community. Um, and my knowledge of engineering was really more in chemical engineering, but mechanical engineering is also very important. Material science is very important. So those were very significant deficiencies that I faced. My partner, Alan Guggenheim, he knew a fair bit about running a business. He was a serial entrepreneur. So I really let him run the business. And then I focused on the science piece of it. And that was good and bad. The bad part of it was that I was almost completely disconnected from how to start that business, how to grow it. I was very much at a disadvantage when engaging in those conversations. And there's two sayings that I don't know who they go back to, but they've been around for a long time. Two sayings
I will have them
that
for
are
you.
that are very true. And one is, and both of these relate to funding a startup. One saying is, men with deep pockets have very short arms. It's true. It's hard to get money, even from people that are extremely wealthy or venture funds that have hundreds of millions or billions of dollars. The other saying is that, and this relates to trying to get loans or debt funding, a banker is someone who will lend you money if you can prove you don't need it. Okay, so for a startup company, one of the most critical challenges is how do you get funded? And that has been and remains to be true. So the struggling through that, how do you get funded when you're a startup so that you can grow your business? That was true in my first company, and that's been true in the early days of IDTech. So that challenge was very significant, and I think anyone who's working in a startup would tell you it's equally true today.
That is the reason why most of the startups, of course, they start, but then the
Yeah,
journey finish very, very early. So
yeah.
definitely understood. And as you said, sort of delegating the business aspect of things to your partner back then also made it a lot more difficult at early stage for Element One. So, to put a positive spin, the other way around, what are you the most proud of sitting here today, thinking of your career, of your business, of Element One?
So I've been doing this for a while now. You can probably tell by the gray in my hair. Um, After 35 plus years working in hydrogen, fuel cells, hydrogen purification, what I'm most proud of today is the team that I work with. I work with a very capable team of 20 individuals who are as passionate about what we do as I am, very capable individuals. And through this teamwork, we have arrived at a line of products, or actually two product lines, that produce very high purity hydrogen from a mixture of methanol and water. And that by itself, I think, is something to be proud of. But even more significantly, these products are smaller than any of our competitors' products. They're cheaper. They work at a higher energy efficiency. And I really think that this opens the door to grid independent distributed electric power generation anywhere. And that comes back to my original reason for getting into this,
Was
right?
about
We
to
can
circle
deploy.
back. How nicely this covers what you just said in the
Yeah,
beginning. What's the reason? What was the why behind the story
right,
of Dave?
right, right. So we can deploy these products anywhere in the world: Africa, Asia, South America, North America, Europe, cold climates, hot climates, and we can make electricity. And moreover, we can make electricity with a very low carbon footprint, without particulate in the emissions, without sulfur oxides, nitrogen oxides. So it truly is a game-changing technology for electrification. It's as radical as going from wired telecommunications to wireless phones.
So just to give you people a little bit of insight into the business, my next question was, what do you guys do right now to sort of contribute to decarbonizing the industry? So you mentioned very heavily starting from the why, what was the big drive and how you guys making it a lot more efficient, sort of available anywhere and everywhere. But give our audience a little bit of insight about the products and what do you guys do to contribute to
Sure.
decarbonizing?
Sure. What we've developed at Element One and built on knowledge that's been gained over 3 decades. We have 2 product lines, as I've mentioned, a small machine and a larger machine that make very high purity hydrogen from methanol mixed with water. Now, methanol is the simplest alcohol. It has 1 carbon in it. It's a liquid under all environmental conditions that you're going to encounter on Earth. Water, of course, is almost everywhere, readily available. And by combining methanol and water, we make hydrogen. 1/3 of our product hydrogen comes from water, 2/3 from methanol. As I said, methanol is the simplest alcohol. It does have carbon in it, which means that we have carbon emissions from our machines, which is the point where you're making hydrogen and using hydrogen. But methanol is made from renewable feedstocks that are biogenic in source. That can be biomass, it can be garbage, it can be manure from either waste treatment plants in cities or from agriculture, farming. Methanol can also be made from carbon that is captured, either from industrial waste streams or direct air capture of carbon dioxide. So methanol is truly a renewable feedstock, and it's available globally. It is being adopted as the replacement fuel in shipping to replace diesel fuel and marine bunker oil. So anywhere you go in the world, you can get methanol. It's shipped in tankers, it's shipped in rail cars, it's shipped in trucks, drums, totes. You can even buy it on Amazon. Methanol is available everywhere. So it is the ideal feedstock for making hydrogen. And once you have high purity hydrogen, it's a direct step to electricity. One of the beauties of methanol is that it is biodegradable. In fact, methanol is a byproduct of the degradation of fruit and of biomass. So methanol exists naturally in nature, which means that in the soil, there are microbes that convert methanol into carbon dioxide. So methanol naturally degrades very quickly, and it's miscible with water. So it is the most perfect feedstock for making hydrogen. And once you have hydrogen, going to electricity is a direct step. When methanol is made from biogenic feedstock, it usually has a negative carbon intensity. Now think about that, right? If we can make electricity using renewable methanol with a negative carbon intensity, we can actually offset carbon emissions from those industrial sectors that are going to be very difficult to decarbonize. That's a powerful tool.
It is. And well, thank you so much for making it super easy and digestible, not only for me, but definitely for the audience. I has heard already about the business from your amazing team, by the way. I can sign under it. I have met with your CEO before, and he gave me a lot of explanation about the business and what you guys do. But yeah, I mean, it literally sounds like cleaning up the environment. So super interesting mission for the business, and definitely great way to explain it to everybody. And my last question, just to wrap it up, considering that it's the year of skills and we are a recruitment business, most of our network are people trying to sort of step into renewable energy, or as you can imagine, very often transition from conventional fuels into renewables or hydrogen. What would be three pieces of advice that you can share with people either starting their career or trying to transition, or one golden element of advice from those?
Well, my most important piece of advice is follow your passion. Follow your passion. I think just in general, human nature is such that a person will do well at what they enjoy. And if they don't enjoy their work, they're not going to do well at it. So follow your passion. If your passion is renewable energy or energy in general, and if you're on the technical side, don't overlook the importance of a business knowledge. Understand at least the basics of business and finance. If you are like me and have interest in being engaged in a startup, maybe you have a passion to found a startup, start your own company, don't give up control too early. In my first startup, my partner and I agreed to give up control far too early. And the direction the company went after that happened wasn't a good direction, and it didn't lead to success. So if you are engaged as a founder in a startup, don't give up control too early.
Super, super insightful, definitely. I mean, it's kind of hard to connect because, as you said, have your passion and follow the passion, but passion only lasts for a period of time. There has to be commitment, there has to be hard work, grit, and a lot of time and hours spent to follow up, to pull through, really. So thank you so much for your time. I cannot wait to share it with the audience. It was super, super insightful. I really appreciate your time. And yeah, I look forward to observing the success of the business. Everything happening with triple M reformers in Europe, and look forward to catching up with you and the rest of the team very shortly.
Wonderful. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dave. Pleasure.